Welcome to the Dating After Divorce podcast. I'm your host, Shade Curry, and I believe every divorced woman deserves a romantic relationship where she feels safe, loved, and cherished. You can create the most amazing life after divorce, and I will teach you how. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Dating After Divorce podcast. So I have a real treat for you today. I have had so many different types of people on this podcast, but I don't think I've had a friend, like a friend on the podcast yet. So this individual knows me in person, was at my wedding, all the things, and she's here to tell you her dating after divorce story. So I'm excited to introduce you to Natasha Moore.
Hi.
She's a professional nerd, classroom social justice activist, serving as a professor of English at the Southwestern Illinois College. Outside of the classroom, Natasha enjoys eating, baking, cycling, traveling with her loved ones, and running her short-term rentals. And that doesn't even do justice to everything that that you are.
It's enough.
It's enough. Because we have to get into this story.
Right. I know. I have a juicy one.
Yes. So for context, listeners, and just forgive us if we just go into our own little world while we're telling the story today, because we just know each other so well. So we'll try to bring you guys along and fill in the backstory.
Okay.
But the first thing I think I want to talk about is how we met. Because you intersected with my dating after divorce story.
Yes.
I had been dating Ken for, I think it was about 4 or 5 months before we decided that, okay, it's time for me to check out your church and see if I like your people. And at that time, you were attending Kent's church. So Kent is my husband now. We've been married, for those of you that are new to the podcast, we've been married 5 years now. And Tasha was attending his church.
Right.
Remember that?
Yes, I remember that. I remember when I met you, you caught my eye because you had on this gorgeous outfit. You had the whole Ankara thing going. And I was like, she has to be African. Because only an African would have the entire ensemble put together the way she has put together. It was gorgeous. And at the time, I was married to a Nigerian.
Yes.
So I was really interested in all things African and trying to get. So I just made a beeline her. I want to see who she is.
Yeah, it was wonderful because you came right up to me after the service, introduced yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then you, myself, and a couple of other women, when COVID hit, which wasn't too long after that, well, about a year or so after that.
Later.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We were part of our COVID bubble.
Yes.
The 4 of us would get together every once in a while. So we've seen each other through a few things, Yes. So
seeing you through no longer being married.
Yeah. So let's go to your story because there's a lot to this. You were in your second marriage at the time.
I was in my second marriage at the time, and now I call it my play marriage, my fake one. You know that at the time. Because what had happened was, I was married to this particular guy, and we had met online. We met online. He was living in Florida, and I felt like I was done with the St. Louis scene. I don't know about done. I didn't get really that far into it because I'm a homebody, and it's hard for me to meet people. So I expanded my online search, and I was into traveling. Post my first husband. And so I was really into traveling. And so we married quickly within about 7 or 8 months because he wanted to have a child. And at the time I was so, what's the word? I was so convinced that I should not fornicate. And I was like, I love him so much, when you first, whatever. I was like, okay, if you could find if you can get one of them rusty eggs and that'll work, you can have a baby. That was my attitude at the time.
How old were you at the time? Just for context on like this having a
I
big.
was 40, let me see. So this was in 17. So how long ago was that? It's 7 years ago. So I was 41, 42, something
Yeah.
like that, like 42 years old. And I knew I couldn't get pregnant again. I mean, I knew the chances were really, really slim, but I was like, okay, whatever. If it happens, I'll dream a new dream. We'll do whatever. So we got married quickly because I did not want to fornicate. And come to find out, to make a long story short, because the whole podcast can be about this story, but we're not going to make the whole podcast about this story. Long story short, come to find out, he had a wife living in the US already. And while he was married to me, and I found that out. So we had that marriage annulled. And the biggest thing I found out, the reason why the baby was important, is that he married me to try to have a baby with me. He was looking for someone, he had left his wife to go find someone else to have a baby with. And he thought that I would be that person. And then when he found out for sure, meaning I had a hysterectomy in 2019, we split. So that's the short version of that very interesting story.
Um, and there's obviously there's no shame, no regret. Your story is amazing. But this is an educational podcast, right?
Right. Go ahead. I'm here to educate.
So I'm gonna be all into the okay. So because I have a lot of things that like I tell my clients and they wonder because I understand and I empathize with a lot of things that women go through. Like when you're on the apps and it's like there's always this sense that there's nobody in your city.
Yes.
And I had that sense too. I felt like there was no one in St. Louis when I was dating.
Mm-hmm.
What I did was said I was going to move. So my thought was I was going to practice dating because there was nobody here. And then I was going to move. And almost like that sense of letting go caused me to meet my husband.
Mm-hmm.
But for a lot of people, their solution is, okay, I'm going to expand my filters.
Right.
And date long distance.
Right.
What are your thoughts about that now? Like around that decision to date long distance?
Now, I would not do it again. I just wouldn't. At the time, like you said, at the time, I was concerned about fornication. I was concerned about I was concerned about being lonely. I didn't want, I was at the point where I was happy with myself. I was dating myself. I was having a good time. Companionship. So the idea of traveling and being long distance was alluring to me because then I'm not a clingy type. I'm kind of not. I don't want people in my space all the time. So the idea of someone being away and I just saw them on the weekends or a few times a month and we have family time was very alluring to me.
Yeah.
What that taught me though was it is near about impossible to really know someone from a long distance. Now, I know there's arguments from here to kingdom come about, the pros and cons. I'm just saying my story. And in my experience, it is just really hard. You can get emotionally attached. You can talk a lot. Your communication skills will improve, which it did, all these wonderful things can happen through a long distance relationship, but what cannot happen is you can't know how that person looks in person to study them in the wild, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? To see how they're reacting to others and all the things you really should be taking note of. What it's like when you do have to see them all the time. When you're tired of them, you're tired of you. How do they handle that? All these things. It's kind of dating is in long distance is kind of like a fairy tale in a sense. The good side is like a fairy tale, and then the bad side is like a horror because you miss the person. There's also that, what I'm saying? You miss the person, you want to, but I'm the type of person that I attach and detach very easily. So during that time, those types of things weren't my issues, you know what I'm saying? And so I could not have imagined the issues that I encountered to even be issues. Like I didn't even know that there was a checklist for those things. Like I didn't even know. To look, you know what I'm saying? You ask basic questions. Are you married? No. Okay. You don't think to yourself, that people actually marry someone else when they're married. Like, that's not even a thing.
It's not a thing that you think about. Like, I mean, I didn't ask, I didn't ask Ken, hey, so are you still married? That's not a thing, but I think we learned that it can be a thing
Yeah,
through
it
this
can be
journey.
a thing. Like, you need proof. Like, I need proof.
Yeah. One of the things you said like the dating long distance is a fairy tale. And I kind of wanted to fill in what happens there. What happens when you're dating long distance? I think the only exception that I sometimes make when I'm making recommendations to women is if the person is in your network. Like your cousin lives in LA and says, hey, there's this guy that I know really well, and then introduces you. Sometimes,
Right.
but the person's networking, there could be an exception. But if you meet the person online,
And
I don't recommend. And the reason is that when you're in that fairy tale, your brain fills in the gap, which is
yes,
so dangerous.
yes,
Things you don't know, our brains are like story machines. We create
yes,
stories, we have imagination. The more imaginative and creative you are, and you're an English
yes,
professor, so there we
yes,
go.
yes.
It fills in the story when there's
It
a gap.
fills in the story. And at the time, you can understand, I had come from, I've always prided myself in being one of the people who can never get got again. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm smart, I'm quick-witted, I read people well, and I was like, I got this. You know, I had been divorced for, I don't know, I got divorced officially in 15. We have been separated since 14. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like enough time had passed by. I had did the whole by myself thing. I did the whole celibate thing. I did the whole, I felt like I did the work, and yeah, and it's like, but at the end of the day, what that relationship taught me looking back and what I immediately noticed after was I did not understand how deep I had been with my first husband since for 18 years. He was the only man I had been with from the age of 18 to 40. So I missed the entire adult dating thing. You know what I'm saying? I was married or in that relationship the entire time. So what this guy gave me and what allowed me to fill in those gaps is he was nice to me. And I did not realize how incredibly important, I don't know the word important isn't the best word, how needy I was in that area to simply to have someone be nice to me. You know what I mean? So whatever other gap I needed to fill in, because there were some people telling me, most people, they liked him. They were like, okay, he's cool. Because he was like syrupy sweet nice. You know what I'm saying? He really was. Everyone loved him. But a couple of my best friends were like, I don't know. He's moving kind of fast and he cut a couple of red flags. But in my mind, all I cared about was y'all don't understand. He's so nice to me.
And for context, your first husband
Was not nice. Very much so. He was abusive in every way. The only thing that we didn't go through was a lot of physical abuse. Like because when we fought together. Like you hit me, I'm gonna hit you back, that type of thing. But we didn't do a lot of that because he had a reputation to uphold, and I had a really big mouth. So if you hit me and he actually gave me a black eye, I wasn't gonna be the type of person to walk around like this with the shades on. No, I
you
was
were
gonna
going to put makeup on it and show up in
no, I
church.
wasn't gonna do none of that. You know what I'm saying? And he knew that. So that type I didn't really deal with a lot. But everything else everything else. You read the book about abuse, whatever they said, I went through all that. So I went through 18 years of being told I was ugly and that no one else would want me and that I had to be the good wife and I had to support the foolishness and that I had to, you know what I'm saying? It was that and then no help with the kids and then just really, again, a whole nother podcast. I promise you, if you ever want to hear that full story, I can tell that story too about what abuse looks like, how it shows up and all the ways that it affected me. But what I learned through that relationship was how big that hole was to be filled and how much that need was for just someone just to just be nice, just to show me some affection, to make it look. I was like, I didn't realize I was that hungry. And that was, yeah. And so after me and this second guy annulled and we separated, I was almost ashamed when I began to see myself and to see and understand how hungry I was. So, because you know how you have that "how did you get here" situation? You look up like, how did I get here? Like, how did I get here? Like me. How did I get
You're
here?
smart. You are a professor. Like you have multiple graduate degrees. You teach students. You have children that, I mean, your children at this time were in college or getting ready to go to college.
Yeah, high school, yeah.
Like you are amazing. You have taught Bible studies. You have like published books for
I
people. Like
published books I've been published to other people.
you have done stuff.
Right. So, when I began to assess how did I get here, and when I saw the answer, I was ashamed. I ain't gonna lie. I was like, wow, look at me. Yeah, so that was tough.
Do you wonder exactly how divorced women just like you are meeting eligible men who want a real relationship and a commitment? They're doing it by dating with their core values. Your core values are the GPS that lead you to the partner you've been looking for. When you use your core values on dating apps, text messages, and at social events, you will easily connect with your true match partner without chasing, settling, or wasting time with non-committal men. I have taught exactly how to do this in the 2-hour Core Values Dating Blueprint course available on my website, shadecurry.com/dating. That's SADECURRY.com/dating. You will learn exactly how to identify your core values and use them on your dating profile, how to ask the right questions via text, and how to tell the right stories on dates, so that you attract the right people and repel those who aren't right for you. If you're ready to meet your true match, hop over to shadecurry.com/dating or click the link in the show notes. Now back to the episode. And it was tough, but this is not unusual. And I don't know if you've noticed this story of the smart, high achieving, wealthy, wealthy woman who can do everything, the superwoman, being a target, because I think one of the reasons we get into these relationships is our light is shining so brightly. We're actually a target, men who are exploitative, men who want something. Because it's interesting that they don't go take the, how is it that they don't,
Right.
Many of these men who want to take advantage of someone, they get a certain joy in, well, there's different reasons, but I've seen situations where there's a certain joy in bringing the woman's light down.
Yeah.
For some, it's okay, she's got the money and I don't like this work that I'm doing, and I'm an insecure man and I'm not sure I can make it, so I'm going to latch on here. There are all kinds of things, but our lights that shine so bright actually do make us a target for people who want to be a part of that. And some of those people are going to be men who are not good for us.
Yes.
And no one told us that. No one told us that in Sunday school.
Oh, you know what? If I start publishing again, I'm going to do that. Like, we need to revamp the Sunday school curriculum and the women's retreats curriculum. Right?
Yes. Like, hey, the more bright, brilliant, the more called you are, the more powerful you are, the more likely you are to have, scammers don't target people who don't have money.
That's true. That's true. Like, what's the point?
Yes. Okay, so that's the backstory.
Now we
gotta get to the fun stuff, because so let's, after all of this, and I know you took some time to kind of work through the shame. Like, how did you work through that? Like, what steps did you take to be like, I think I see what I did wrong here, the missteps, and I'm still worthy of love, and I'm going out there to get it.
Well, for one, I never saw myself, and I don't see myself as being a single person forever. Like, I feel like I'm built for a relationship. So the shame, yes, I had to deal with that. I cried a lot. I journaled. You know what I'm saying? I wrote him a letter. I was leaning on my girlfriends a lot. But I literally just got back out there, like, within like 3 months.
You didn't walk around the mountain I love it. I love this because this is literally what I tell women. I'm like, I'm not saying listen, I do the work and I'm an advocate for healing, but there are some things you're just not going to heal
I mean, what's the
without
point?
practice.
I'm thinking, like, listen, what? I'm hungry. I want to go on a date. Please stop. I'm kidding.
All right. I don't know if we're gonna
No,
keep that part in or not, but
no, no. I, I, I did. I journaled. I leaned on my friends. You know what I'm saying? I did that, but I got back out there within like 3 months. I didn't linger forever, and every relationship, I kind of and I redid my list.
Mm.
That relationship caused me to redo my list because we all start off with the list. Everybody list looks the same at first. You got to be handsome. You got to be smart. You got to, yeah, okay,
It's $5 and $1 million.
yeah. You got to have all that. I pretty much scrapped. My list also had you got to be nice to me. You got to make me feel. I was done with all that too, and then that caused me to be like, what is it that I really want? And is that want good for me? Like, is my list serving me? You know what I'm saying? I started watching Rebecca Lynn Pope, Bishop R.C. Blake's. I just gobbled up like podcasts and stuff on dating because one thing my pastor told me at the time, he's like, you know what to do when you don't know what to do. You're a researcher. Like, if you don't know how to date, then what do? I'm like, I can research. So I would like, and I learned how I had to figure out like, well, what do I want? Like, that was hard trying to figure that out. Like I went through so many iterations of my list, like, oh my God. And I had to learn how to show up differently because I was like, I don't want to attract that again. Like, how do I show up differently? And then one of my problems was while I was dating, I felt like one of the reasons why I settled on him and him being so nice is because I wasn't getting a whole lot of feedback on my profile. I thought I was pretty good at vetting, but that vetting process also meant that no one would respond to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? I was just out there and I'm like, what's the matter with me? And I had to like redo all of that, redo how I see myself and just learn how to just be out there and not be so uptight, learn how to just make friends. So I spent I dated a little bit after that, but they all ended up being friends. I ended up finding more friends than boyfriends. Matter of fact, I just ran into, and they all taught me different lessons. And then those male friends, because I didn't have any male friends, the friends that I met would teach me about the next thing. They're like, listen, they went through my profile. They're like, no, men don't care about that, Tasha. And they're like, this picture. I'm like, what's wrong with this picture? They're like, you look mean. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm sexy. No, you don't. And then they put up the goofiest, stupid looking picture I had. And sure enough, though, I had some male friends read through my profile. And guess what? People started here. I was like,
Yes, it makes it's a huge. I was doing a client's profile yesterday. I was and I was she had on there. So what she had done, I had done a profile for her, and then it's been a couple of weeks, and she changed it. She said, "Yeah, I changed my profile." I'm like, "What did you do?" So I looked at it. She's like, "Well, my girlfriend looked at other women's profiles on the apps and picked out some things she liked and added it to mine." And I said, "Okay, so let me get this straight. You're working with me, your dating coach, and then your friend goes on other women who can't find a partner." and,
right,
and adds that stuff to your profile. I was like, we're not doing any of that.
right, right.
We change it. What men are looking for is radically different from how
What
we
we think.
ourselves, how we think, what we think they're looking for. If
Mm-hmm.
you have yoga, I'm just going to say this. If you have yoga on your profile, men don't care. They don't care about your yoga. They don't care about your coffee.
In my case, it was the education. Remember, my dad was like, Tasha, please. My dad looked at my profile and was like, no, man. I had all my education, all my degrees, all the things I like to do, all the things that I thought made me awesome.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is a resume. It's not a.
Right. No, they don't care about it. And when I say they, I'm using that in a general way. The way it really works is there's a particular kind of man that you're looking for.
Right.
And he cares specifically about certain things. And the man you're with now doesn't care about your degrees. So,
Oh my God. To this day, he's never read my profile. I say, how did you click? He was like, I looked at your picture and I saw myself with you. And I was like, you were it. And I just kept going after you. You kept ignoring me. And I was like, did not you read my profile to see I'm a Christian? I'm this, that, and the other. He was like, who cares about all that stuff you with me now? It's like, what? He
yeah,
never even read it.
yeah,
But the person I ended up with never even read it. I was like, what? You know how much work I put into
yeah. Yeah, it is the profile, it isn't the profile. It all depends on the man that you're looking for.
it?
But I did want to ask you your list. So the list you ended up with
Yeah.
after all the iterations, what did you have on there?
Finally, I ended up with, let me tell you, it got pared down to listen because I was done with ugly at that point. I'm sorry. I was like, the ugly mess over you, the cute mess over you. So if they're gonna get messed over by the ugly and the cute, I prefer the cute one. So I was like attractive to me. But I ended up with, you don't have to have a whole lot of money, but you can't ask me for none, right? So financially stable enough to where you're not asking me for anything, right? Then just what was it? Like the same retirement goals. You had to have a child. If you had children, you had to have children because you couldn't ask me for none. Okay. You had to have children, and your youngest child could not be younger than my youngest child. Okay.
Okay.
So then, because I was ready to get out and have the kids kind of empty nest, I started looking for people who had the same similar goals that I had for retirement. I started thinking, okay, I'm I'm in my 40s and headed toward my 50s. And I'm like, I want a man that's going to want to travel with me. I can have a great time with. We can laugh. Yes, he is nice, but he is not asking me for any money. He's contributing and not taking away. And that was pretty much it. I stopped. Because at first he had to be a Christian. He had to have the Holy Ghost. He had to have this. He had to, man, my man's not a Christian. You know, Holy Ghost.
So rule out the Holy Ghost right there.
I wrote down all those things because at the end of the day, he treated me he had to want me. Because in my dating, I had noticed that there were men, like for instance, with money. And I finally figured out because I was attracting a lot of broke people at first. And then when I kind of revamped things and kind of redid myself, I was like, okay, so I stopped attracting the brokest people. But then I realized people with money, it don't matter if they have money if they're not gonna give you none of it, if they're stingy. You know what I'm saying? So like that's not a thing. Or if they don't have the same goals that you have, you know what I'm saying? So I ended up with we have to have the same retirement goals. We have to have fun with one another. And we have to have a real attraction both ways. I'm not running after him. He ain't running after me, that type of thing. It had to be my list got pared all the way down.
Yeah.
Like literally. I was at that point, and I wouldn't call it desperation because trust me, there was 100 no's, before. I wasn't like dating everybody. I know some people say yes to everybody. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that either. But it got pared way down because all the things that I thought were important, the thing about being a Christian, the thing about being compatible religiously, the thing about being, all these other things, the thing about having money, the thing about being the looks, all these things. I found all those things, and none of them were for me. I'm like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he has money if he's not gonna give you none. It doesn't matter if he's cute if he's a player. It doesn't matter if he's a Christian if he's a hypocrite or if he doesn't. You know what I'm saying? And he doesn't have compassion. It doesn't matter if I'm like, so you have just a basic human being that thinks I'm the bee's knees, and I look at him and be like, okay, and then we could travel together without choking one another. We have similar goals in retirement. So those are first big questions to me.
I love that because it was more about the person. I think when I'm talking to my clients, the way I say it is, it's not the external attributes. The external attributes are signals that a person may have something you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So what we put on the list is not the external attribute, but the thing. So a lot of women want to marry a man who is a Christian, but they don't realize that they want a Christian because they want spiritual compatibility.
Right.
Now, if we take away the Christian part of it, what is the spiritual compatibility behind that?
What does that look like?
What does that look like? And that's what we put on the list, not the external attribute.
Yes.
If you want a man who is financially, some people say, I talked to a woman once who said, well, I want a man who makes over six figures. And in my mind, I'm like, why do you want a man specifically who makes over six figures? Right. And she was like, well, it's because I want to be a stay-at-home mom because she basically wanted to feel secure. She wanted someone, but with her, I had to say, that's not something you can't date for like financial security. It's like a man is not a plan. So we worked on her plan first for herself so she could build that. But there's always something behind the external attribute. And that's what I call the core values. Like you're looking for a certain core value. If you can define it and recognize it, then you can find it. But if you're looking at the external attributes, the journey gets really long.
It does. It is confusing because you think, why doesn't this work? I have the perfect list. This list is everything. I listed out all the things. And I started meeting men that checked off the list. I did. And they ended up being good friends. You know what I'm saying? I have lots of, not lots, but you know what I'm saying? I met some really awesome people along the way who I'm like, no, I wouldn't. No. But they're awesome people, and they became awesome friends and awesome resources. But that was the other thing. You have to realize that everybody's not meant to be your boyfriend or your husband or whatever.
Sis, like not every nice guy is for you. Just because the guy is nice doesn't mean he's your person.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was when you looked at his profile, what did you see? Because I want to hear this because we're going to be telling me these profiles that they're seeing. And I'm like, okay.
His profile was like basic. He was like, first of all, I didn't like his profile. So, because I saw his profile probably in December. Like he kind of first popped up in my, and I was like, he looks dorky. He looked like he'll play. He had like one picture that didn't look dorky to me. And I was like, oh, so he's not dorky. He a player. I'm like, he ain't, he ain't gonna be all that. I just made all these assumptions about him based off of these pictures.
Listeners, I hope you are hearing this because this point is so sore with me and my clients. I'm like, listen, the profiles are just the first indicator. They mean nothing. Profiles mean nothing. Pictures mean nothing. Nothing on the profile means nothing. The only thing we're looking for is make sure this person is a decent human.
Yes.
That's the only thing you can tell. And even then, sometimes you still have to double check.
Yeah, he was a little bit, he was like, my passion is making money. I'm like, okay. You're so basic. Like,
you're so basic. You're kind of you're braggadocious.
When I tell you, that's what I thought. I thought he was. I'm like, yeah, you're braggadocious. You basic. You're not even you alright looking. You know what I'm saying? He had like him and his dog. I was like, okay. So I ignored him, and he would message me like every other day. And I was just,
what app was that? Was that Match?
We were on Match. Yes.
Match. Okay, because I was like, a lot of the other apps, you just block the person.
No, you can block, but I didn't. I had like a list of people who are completely blocked. Like if you completely got on my nerves, then whatever. Then you had like potential, like when you're bored day, and he was on that bored day list. So like, and that's what happened. Like he would message me every once in a while just to kind of check on me, and I would ignore him, and I would just, like, I'll look at it. I check the pictures again. I'm like, it's still dorky. No. And then one day he got me on a good day. I was bored. I was, the guy I'd been seeing. I mean, I'd been out with him a couple of times, but I was like, this ain't it, whatever. I'm like, well, shoot, let me see what he's talking about. 'Cause I was just bored and I wanted some male company, but I want to hear a more male voice. Sometimes you like that. You just want to hear a male voice. You want some male energy. And it was a dry season, so I was like, okay, what's up? When I tell you he jumped off, like,
I have so much empathy for him right now.
When I tell you He jumped on that. He immediately was like, "Would you can I call you?" We had a couple of texts because I had a vetting process. If you couldn't text coherently,
Mhm.
like then you couldn't get a phone call. And then the first phone call, you might get a second. And by the second one, if I make a decision whether I want to see you. But you had to say, let's meet within a week. I wasn't gonna be on the text 2 weeks, a month. We just said, I wasn't gonna do that. I'm telling you, he was like, "Can I call you?" We're on the phone, we had a great conversation. He's like, "Can I take you out?" When? He's like, "Tomorrow." Like, well, okay. And I tell you, when I met him in person, and listen, this was during COVID, when COVID first started. It was March of 20, was it 2020?
2020.
Yeah, zero. So 21. So this is the end of this is I met him in 21.
Okay.
So March of 21. So COVID was still happening. People were still, you know what I'm saying? And I told him specifically, I said, I don't mind meeting as long as it's in a public place where there's not a lot of, it can't be crowded. People were starting to kind of come back together, but with masks, I'm like, people have to be masked up. It can't be a crowded restaurant. It can't be a crowded place. I had like criteria. And I told him, he was like, okay, meet me, at Prosino. So we go down there. I get down there. First of all, he's late. Okay. I'm on the phone with my mom. I'm like bad talking. I'm like, oh my God, he's late. I drove up to the parking lot. The parking lot is buku crowded. Okay. I was like, and he disrespectful because I already told him I ain't want to meet in no crowded place. So he messing up already and he late. This about to be, I mean, really, I'm on the phone with my mom. I'm like, and finally he shows up like 15 minutes late. He's in the parking lot. He calls me. He's like, I'm in the parking lot. Meet me. And I was like, all right, Janice, what's my mama? I said, let me go see. So I'm talking on the phone just in case because I was the type that would walk off on people. I've done that. I know I shouldn't, but I've done it. So I wanted my mom on the phone just in case. And I walk up to the restaurant, right? And this guy walks up. And he has on this black leather jacket. And he walks like this. And I was like, hold up, Janice, wait a minute, hold up. I came for the dinner, but I think I'm gonna stay for these snacks. Me call you back. He, and not that he didn't look anything like the pictures, like I could tell it was him, but he was not dorky at all.
Dorkiness was gone and hotness was in hotness.
Like,
So, listeners, sorry, just for those of you that are not watching on video, Tasha just imitated like her knees wobbling as she walked up to the restaurant. So that's why we're cracking up here. Oh, I love that. I love that so much.
And the restaurant that we went to, there was one next door that was really crowded. The one we went to, there were like two people in the whole restaurant. So he had listened to my wishes. It's just that I didn't,
Mhm.
we had a great date. We had immediate chemistry. Like the chemistry was immediate.
Mm.
I was like, oh, hallelujah. Just all that time he was in my little
Do
throwaway.
do you remember how long he was in your board list?
Yeah, from like the beginning of January to March.
3 months. Wow.
Yes. Yes. We had our first conversation on the app on March 5th. Our first date was March 8th.
And how long have you been together now? So the listeners know.
So since we haven't separated since then. We've been together. We made it official.
This is 24. So
For 3 years.
3.5 years.
Yeah, 3.5 years. Yeah. From just that date. And when I tell you he was persistent, because I had a couple other guys in the queue that were whatever, but this one here, he was just like, I'm not letting go. Like, it took me a month for you to answer me. You was ignoring me. So he was consistent. He was kind. He showed up. But guess what? He showed up. He's the exact opposite of everything that I thought I wanted on that list. It was the initial,
Last list.
yeah, like I thought, like, first of all, he's loud. You have to understand me.
Mhm.
I am like, in high school, I didn't have a name. My name was the girl who wore skirts all the time. I
Mm.
grew up in a apostolic church my entire life. Even when I got grown and I started making my own standards, I still wore skirts a lot. Still never wore, I still wear skirts out in public 99% of the time. I just got bold with my first pair of pants, a wide leg jumpsuit out in public. My coworkers like, it's a jumpsuit. It's kind of like a dress, but it's still a jumpsuit. I'm like, no, right? So you understand like who I am. You know what I'm saying? I had a publishing company that published Christian education materials. I had been with one guy like my entire life, dating life. I'm not quiet, but I'm just not I'm not a social butterfly. I'm not the type, I don't go to, I've never been to a club, that type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Still haven't. I think I did once. Didn't like it. Quickly left. This guy, he's loud, he cusses, smokes, smokes weed. I'm looking like all the things I said, I was like, I've never been anybody who smokes weed. And it was just like everything about him is like, and I was like, I told my friends, I was like, I'm really attracted to him, but I don't know. He's loud, he's boisterous, he is braggadocious. He just has this big presence that's just like so not me. And my friends were like, Tasha, give him a chance. One of my best friends, she cusses a lot. She's like, but Tasha, I'm your best friend and I cuss a lot and you love me. I'm like, I do love you. She's like, give him a chance. And they're
Mm.
like, give him a chance. Like he's a regular dude. You're used to these church dudes that don't do right, who claim that they're Bible thumpers or whatever, and they sneaking around. He's a regular dude. Like, I circle what they would call right. He's a regular dude. He do regular dude stuff.
Mhm.
Give him a chance. See
Yeah.
what he does. See if he's.
Yeah.
And for the first year, I was like on edge because I was like, there's no way this is going to work. It took me a long time to accept that this would work. Like, there's no way. I kept thinking that something big was going to happen and and we just keep working over and over again. I'm like, what?
When you've been raised to believe that the the markers of evil are whether a person smokes, drinks, dances, and doesn't whether
I
or not they
see.
go to church. That's what makes up character. You've been given these like
Yes.
performative markers for character, and
Hmm.
you've been taught that your whole life. It can be hard to realize that, oh, that's not what character is.
Right.
Character is what the person actually does.
Yes.
It's not whether or not they use a cuss word, it's whether or not they are kind and they're building other people up.
Yes.
Because you and I both know people who will never use a cuss word, but are
Evil.
tearing people down every day.
Yes. And they're evil and whatever. Like this guy is kind. He's like, I noticed how he treats waiters and wait staff. You know what I'm saying? Those types of things. Does he tip well? You know what I'm saying? I pay attention to these types of things. How
Mhm.
does he, just like, and I'm like, this guy, okay, it's okay, so he cusses, and okay, so he smokes weed. But when I tell you, I don't have to worry about him like lying and like cheating. I know what he is. You know why? Because I say to myself, he don't have enough sense to lie about it. He just be like, and I'm like, he's just out there. I'm like,
Yeah. So
sometimes I almost,
you
and I
have someone who
appreciate
is
it.
being who they are. If
Yes,
they're gonna do something, he's gonna tell you, hey, I'm getting ready to go do this thing.
exactly, exactly.
Versus the person who's like, I am all holy and righteous and I'm standing, and you won't know if I did something. And even if you caught me red-handed, I'm gonna talk circles around it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just appreciated his radical honesty. I
Yeah.
appreciated the way he cares for me. And I appreciate even the way he is who he is. We're both, I'm 49 now and he's well into his 50s. And so it's like, he's not going to change. And so, I had to show up understanding that this is who he is. I'm not going to save him. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to change him. He's, whatever, but I do understand and recognize the way he's grown in our relationship, and the way he professes, yes, I've changed in all these ways, but his children are like his children are like, oh, Tasha, Daddy is like, they tell me like how much he's changed and how I'm like, what? They're like, oh yeah, like he for real, like he's they're like he really like you. And I
Yeah,
just see
because
the
there's
growth.
something about unconditional acceptance
Yes,
that's all of us are looking for.
yes,
Is unconditional love and acceptance. And unconditional love and acceptance means I am not trying to change anything about you.
yes. You
That's
just
so rare.
that is rare, and I think that's why it works. I don't know.
I just have a lot of fun together. I've seen you all together. You guys know how to throw a party, how to have fun.
we do know how to have fun, and I like that. I could just be whatever, let it all hang out with him,
Mhm.
and that's cool too. You know,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, no judgment, no whatever. I remember the first time I started wearing earrings for the first time when I was with him, and so
Mhm.
I pierced my ears, and I'm like, look, babe. He was like, what? What? I have earrings. Okay, that's cute. He didn't know what to say. He was like, what? I'm like, you don't understand. He's like, okay, you look nice, babe.
He was like, were you not wearing earrings for a reason?
But he doesn't. One thing he didn't understand or get was how much trepidation I had been through internally
Mm.
to even do that, and then to post the first picture of me in earrings online. That was like my declaration, like I was coming out or something.
For an apostolic Christian, yes, I would say
You know what I'm saying?
about right.
But the fact that that he's just like,
Yeah, it's interesting, like to see the differences between someone who, when you grow up in that Christian bubble,
uh-huh,
how small that bubble can be, depending
mhm,
on which version you're in.
mhm.
And so then you're now, if you ever, and a lot of people, it's interesting, will be in the world, they'll go to work and they'll do things and they'll manage to just carry that bubble with them wherever they go.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And you are like, okay, I want to like see what this planet is that God put me on and actually see what's happening here. And so it feels like a big deal. It feels like you're going on another, like you're going to Mars or something. So I understand, I can understand that to a certain extent, not as much as you are. I was never, I was in some of those environments as a young person, but it wasn't quite as stringent as having grown up,
Yeah.
apostolic. That would, I
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah. So now it's
So what
great.
has your growth trajectory been? Like if you were to look at, okay, starting from your first marriage, who you were, going into that, coming out of that, going into your second marriage, dating, now being in this relationship that is just amazing.
Uh-huh.
Like what's changed? Just you internally and the way you see yourself and the way you see the world. What's different?
I think the big two things. For one, I'm fabulous. I didn't know how fabulous I was. But now I look in the mirror, I'm like, girl, I literally do that. But you have to understand, growing up in my family, I was the smart one. I was never the pretty one. You know what I'm saying? I had a little sister and I had another stepsister, and people would, adults would describe the children, how this sort of adult. Oh, she's the pretty one. Oh, look at that pretty, she has the pretty hair. And then I was always described as the smart one. So
Mm.
that the pretty adjective wasn't mine. You know what I'm saying? It just wasn't. And so I've grown in that, and some of that is just maturity, I think, and just the way I see myself and my hair. Look at my hair. I never had hair. You don't understand. I never had hair until I locked it. You know what I'm saying? And so there was that. So now I look at myself and I see the awesomeness. Whereas before, I didn't see myself in that way. I didn't see myself as sexy or as um I saw myself as an object of sex, but not sexy. There's something that's different. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? The other thing is because I must say I'm in the ing phase of learning, as I said, ing, and but I'm much, much better. I've gotten much better at understanding my value and worth beyond what I can do for people and beyond, because people because I've been so smart, people use me as a resource. You know what I'm saying? And not just as a resource, and because I saw myself as my value being tied up in my intelligence and in what I can do for people, I never really saw myself as being valuable just because, like, you have to work. I had to work for your love. You see what
Mhm.
I'm saying? There's always been that. Now, I speak up for myself more. Now, that may sound kind of weird coming from me, because for those people who know me, know I've always had a smart mouth. I've always been the type that's, I'm snappy at the mouth. But even with that, that didn't include me being snappy at the mouth for me. Did that
Mm.
make any sense? You know,
Yes, that makes a
I,
lot of sense.
and so now I'm still snappy at the mouth, but I get to do it for me. And with my the play marriage taught me was how during that place I was still growing in my own value and learning. I was able to leave that relationship quickly. You know what I'm saying? I understood what was happening. Now, when I say quickly, the whole thing lasted 18 months. You know what I'm saying? Um, it probably some people might have looked at it and said it could have lasted a little less than that once I found out what I found out and that kind of stuff. But it didn't last the next 21 years like the first one did. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, no, I can exit and I'm gonna be okay. And in order for me to be with him, I had to, well, for one, I didn't think we'd last anyway. So I was quick to say no. If he asked for something, I didn't want to give it, no. If he came up against one of my boundaries, no. And I wasn't afraid of losing him because I didn't think we were gonna last anyway. You see what I'm saying? So it taught me how to be in a relationship with boundaries, which is something I I mean, you have to think about it. I was willing to be in a relationship with the second guy. I was willing to give him a baby, knowing good and well I didn't want one. You see what I'm saying? Because I knew on the sneak side, I couldn't really have one. You know what I'm saying? But just the idea that I'd given that part up just to have it. Now I'm like, no. You know what I'm saying? My no's mean no. And when he comes up against something, or if he says this, or whatever it is, I can say no. And in the beginning, that was very easy. And I was really proud of myself because I was like, oh, I'm proud of myself because I can say no. I can enforce my boundaries and both. But that was because literally for the first year, I never thought we would make it. I was surprised every day that we're still together because we're so polar opposite, right? So a part of me hadn't attached enough to care if I lost him. That sounds a little harsh, but that's a real truth. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like when it got hard was when I actually let go and
Mhm.
started to care that I could actually lose him.
Mhm.
Then it became hard to keep my boundaries because now I'm back to that. If I say no, I might lose him. You know what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah.
doing good.
Yes. No, I love
I just
that.
be like, I just do it anyway. I just talk myself through it and I do it anyway. No, it's okay. I love you, but if we don't make it, I promise you I'm gonna be okay. And having that real faith, not I'm not gonna call it fake faith. That's not fair. Um, but having this different level of faith of knowing for real that I'm good, I'm safe, no
Mhm.
matter what happens. So like if we break up, I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna be towed up. I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna be towed up on the floor. I'm gonna be all the things. I'm gonna be all that. But I know in the end, I'm gonna be safe and I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna do it again. I know that.
Yeah. That's so powerful. Like, literally, I tell my clients this all the time. I was like, the work that we're doing to teach you boundaries when you're dating doesn't end. I was like, this boundary work doesn't end just with the men on the apps and all that. I was like, it is your whole life. It
Yeah.
is with your partner. Like, same thing in my relationship. I am constantly trying to remember, okay, this is where you end and where I begin. Because
Yes.
it's easy to get enmeshed. You love the other person, you care for them, you want the best for them. They love you, they want the best for you.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, we don't remember why am I doing this again? Oh, because you wanted it? I hate this.
Exactly. But it's harder the more in love you are, the more you fall, the more you get into it, the harder like it is to recognize where those boundaries are.
Yeah.
And the work continues. And so I think
Yeah.
that's my biggest growth thing. Like I'm definitely not the same pushover that I was at 19 with the first person I was with
Yeah.
at or even at 40 or like 42, the second person I'm with, and when I met him, I was like, no, I'm not. These are non-negotiables. There was a couple of non-negotiables, and I managed to keep them. And as the relationship goes on, so I add a couple more to the list because some things you don't know until you. And I'm like, no, I'm not. We're not doing that either.
Yeah.
Oh,
And what's amazing about this is that when we look at the relationships that did fail, like when I look at my first marriage, sometimes I'm like, people are like, well, what's your part? Like, which, sometimes people weaponize that statement, but
Mhm.
I understand what I mean by it when I say it. I'm looking at my thought processes, what was going on inside my head that
Yeah,
allowed all of this in my
yeah.
space. And for me, it was something similar where I didn't set boundaries early
Mhm.
in the relationship. Like there were things that were clearly not good, but I didn't have the tools, I didn't have the skills.
Mhm.
And I look back, and one of the reasons I do a lot of boundary work and I teach my clients a lot of boundary work is if I had known at 21, 21-year-old little girl, if I had known to set boundaries and I had set those boundaries in the first 6 months of that
Mhm.
marriage, because it was just bad from the start,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
he he probably would have left.
Right.
He would have
Exactly.
left. And
Exactly.
I would have been able to do something different with the
Exactly.
20 years I spent in that relationship.
Yes.
Right. And I know I say he would have left because I know my ex is just not,
Yeah. Yeah.
he
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
not the type to make any adjustments. So
Right.
he
Right.
would have
Right.
left. But for other men who are a little more in the middle, for other partners, they either change or they leave.
Yes. Yes.
Right. But the reason we don't set those boundaries is because we're afraid they might leave.
We're afraid they might leave. I was afraid of going to hell. I was afraid of being alone. That was always the threat at first, right? You're gonna be by yourself.
Yeah.
And looking back now, I'm like,
It's like, wait, what
that is
was so
not
bad about
the threat. Like you cannot threaten me with that today. That's like the worst thing you can say to your like, that is
that?
not a threat.
You're gonna be alone? Oh my God. Like
That would be amazing.
I can nap and I can like I can decide if I want to do chores or
Like,
not.
don't threaten me with a good time.
I know. So yeah, that's and I know for a lot of women who are still struggling with the fear of abandonment, with that neediness that remember you were
Oh.
describing that you had that loneliness, that lack of affection. And
Mhm.
for many women, like me, like you had the childhood trauma, then
Mhm.
you had the abusive relationship. So the
Mhm.
hole is big.
The hole is
And
big.
so if you're listening, there's a lot of nuance to where you fall,
Mhm.
where you might be thinking, yeah, being alone feels like the worst thing in the world.
Mhm.
And there's that journey you have to take from feeling like being alone is the worst thing in the world to feeling whole enough or becoming whole enough that it's not, it becomes a good time.
Yeah.
And a partner is like an option. And
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's where you want to
But I
be.
want to say this one thing too, is I know we're going to wrap up. Part of the reason why too, like you say, the fear of being alone. But I really just, I'm telling you, I've kept diaries my whole life. Like, so I have diaries from as early as like 10, 11 years old. And the one thing that I see, I go back and I look through it, that I see from early and then all the way through my 20s and my 30s, the recurring theme was, this is the best that I can do. Like I have to make good with this situation, whatever the situation was, whether it was a childhood situation that I couldn't do anything about because I was a child, or it was a marriage situation, a relationship situation that I obviously did have control over, but I didn't know. I was like, this is it. No
Mhm.
one else is going to want me. I don't
Mm.
know why I felt that way. I mean, I guess again, a whole nother podcast. I have a lot of childhood trauma too. But when I tell you that was a very strong recurring theme, like I did not believe that anybody would want me
Mhm.
for whatever reason. And when I finally got that and I didn't get it, shoot, it's been 10 years, it's been in my 40s to be
Yeah.
all this time.
Right. So for you, what shifted that? Was it the belief that someone would want you, or did you dispense with the idea of being wanted?
At first, okay, so when I was with my first husband, I did not care about. I got to the point where it was so bad, I no longer cared. I thought when I left him, I left with the idea that I would be alone for the rest of my life, and I was okay with that.
Hmm.
That's how I left. That's where it got. Um, I never dispensed with the idea of being wanted. I'm trying to figure out. I think it was after. You know what it was? After the second one, I started my male friends. They
Hmm.
started pouring into me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They started pouring, and it's like having healthy male relationships that are people who I wasn't sleeping with. You know what I'm saying? And but who they're still men.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh no, nah, you the bee's knees. Like we ain't trying to be together, but don't think it's because
Like
what I'm saying.
brothers. It's like just brothers in your life.
Having that was healthy and good. And then just dating too, and then just being out here, just being out and realizing how messed up everybody is. I'm like, damn, everybody messed up. It ain't just me. I'm not as messed up as her or as him. I think I'm all right.
Yeah, I love that you said just being out here because I do notice a lot of women sometimes are afraid to be in contact with other humans because they've been harmed. They haven't learned how to keep themselves safe emotionally or even keep themselves safe physically.
Yes.
And so contact with other people is just so fraught. It's such a big deal. It's such a big deal to be in converse. I've coached women who had a hard time making eye contact with a man. Just
Mm.
a normal man in like, if a man was there, it was like, you know.
Hmm.
And
I've
so
been there.
that's a very real thing. And those are the things that you may not even know you have that problem until you start dating. And then you're like, oh, I think if I can't talk to a guy, there might be an issue here.
I had a really good girlfriend, and when I first started dating, she would help me by taking me out on dates. And she would give me she's like, listen, I'm gonna take you out. She said, because and this is the way she be talking to each other, that's my girlfriend. She's like, girl, you be looking so stupid when somebody try to pay for you. Like your look on your face, I'm gonna need you to figure out how to not look stupid when someone else says, I'm gonna pay. Like learn to just receive, to
Mm.
just go to the restaurant, be cute, eat your food, and sit back and be cute. I didn't realize I was, she was like, if you could see the look on your face right now, you look so stupid. But she did that until I felt comfortable. She would pay for my nails. She would pay for dinner. She's paid for, she's like, let me pay just so you can get the idea. So you can just be comfortable with the idea. So when you go out with a man, you're not with this.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. That was really helpful.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That it's almost like you learn to embody the feeling that when people grow up in a healthy environment, they embody by being able to sit on their daddy's lap and nothing weird is happening. Their
Right.
daddy's like, hey, baby girl, you look cute in that dress. Oh, look at your
And
hair.
that's it. Right.
Daddy doing their hair, or
Right.
all those little things that, you know, I think about 90% of people didn't get any of them.
True talk.
Yeah.
Real talk.
So if dating is hard for you, listeners, listen, if dating is hard for you, you are not alone. Like, unless you are in that 5% of humans who had the best mom, the best dad, the good brothers, healthy dating in your teens, if you had that like wonderful bubble, you're probably not listening to this podcast,
Right.
right? There are a couple of people where it was more, their divorce happened more because of like, tragic, bigger things. But the
Right.
majority of the women who are listening who have book calls with me, have talked to me, are similar to you and I, where it's like stuff happened, there's trauma, there are relationship patterns. Like you're not alone. There's like a whole lot of us out here. And I think the world reflects that. When you go on the apps and you're seeing guys behaving a certain way, you're seeing women behaving a certain way, you're hearing people talking about dating a certain way, it's because like we're all well, There are some people who are just talking and not doing the work. First of all, let's just say that. But there's a lot of people who didn't get that, didn't get those things filled. We didn't get that education. We didn't get told to look out for people who might be exploitative. And there's nothing wrong with getting that education in your 40s.
Right.
You're going to get it sometime.
Right. Go on, get it though, but get it.
Get it. Yeah.
Get you some learning, like the old folks say.
Yeah. So I really just want to acknowledge you, like for everything that you followed so many people. I remember you listening to this podcast at some point as well.
Yeah.
And I
Yep.
remember also when we were getting together with our other friends, like talking about dating.
Yep.
You did the work. You asked for, advice. You ignored some, which was good.
Right.
Anyway.
I did. There's some crazy advice people out there.
There is, and you took what worked for you.
Mm-hmm.
And your partner are the cutest. I'm gonna need another invite at some point to another party.
Hey, okay. I gotta come to Miami, honey.
Yes, you've got to come check it out here. And you both need to come, actually. You both need to
Can we
come.
bring our trike? She knows what we're into now.
Oh my God. Yes, actually.
We trike a lot together. That's our new thing.
That's how I know you guys have fun, because
Who
does that?
we be the only Black young people out there. We were like, we don't care.
So, all right. So just to wrap up, I want to ask you, if you were to give advice. I mean, I know there's a wide range of women who are listening. Everyone is listening to this podcast is generally looking for their partner or considering, if the relationship that they're in is the right one for them.
Mm-hmm.
What advice do you have? Like, what's your best advice for women dating after divorce?
Ooh. I don't know. I have to say, probably get you some good, real girlfriends. Like some real ones, not just the amen corners. Like, but people who are real, who love you, who are safe, who got your back. Because I have to say, my girlfriends got me through a lot. And when I stopped, and there were times when I was being secretive, and women, we lie to each other all the time. We refuse to tell each other the truth when it comes to dating because we don't want to be judged. We won't, what I'm saying? We're going to do that. You need some girlfriends who can see through that bull, you know what I'm saying? And help you out, because they are, I don't know. If it wasn't for my girlfriends, for real, I ain't gonna lie, I would never be here. Like, get you some good counsel, multitude of counsel is much safety, that's the Bible says. So that's good advice. And then do it. Get out there and do it. Don't be afraid. They're not afraid. I would say they don't bite, but not the not unless you want.
Don't let them bite you.
Don't let them bite you unless you want to be bit.
Oh my gosh.
No, just get out there. Get you a good girlfriend group that's safety, if you can get an older woman in that crew that got some sense,
yes.
That's it.
Yes. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing so openly and vulnerably. Like, this is the I think I imagine people are gonna be like laughing at so many of your quips and your way with words, but I love it. You're an English professor.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're a great storyteller. I have to say, you are an amazing storyteller. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing. I know this has helped a lot of people because everyone's story is different, and your story is particularly targeted to people who have been through a similar experience as you. And I know they appreciate you sharing everything that you have.
Thank you. I thank you so much. Because I was scared as I would get out at first, but I was like, what? I'm doing it.
This is one of my favorite episodes. This was so fun.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, listeners. All right. The great and amazing, magical Tasha Moore.
Hey.
We want to thank you so much for your time and attention today, and we will see you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening today. If you are ready to get married after divorce, I want to invite you to download my free 8-video training specifically designed to help divorced women date with ease and get married again. Head over to sadecurry.com to get started. That's SADECURRY.com. I'll see you inside.